We're going to start with Gimel Amud Beis Rav Ashi. So we had a contradiction in Reb Shimon, where Reb Shimon says that a mincha that's brought Shalei Lishma, not only is it kosher, but the owners fulfilled their obligation. Then we had another statement from Reb Shimon that yes, it's kosher, but the owners do not fulfill the obligation. So we had a contradiction. We gave one answer from Rabbah, where Rabbah said, if the mincha was l'shem kachim, was for the sake of a different sacrifice, so then it was kosher, because it's clear that his thoughts are nothing, because he's bringing it for this mincha. Not for that. If it was for a different pan, so it's clear that his thoughts are nothing. So we follow the action. However, if it was l'shem bailim, if it was for a different owner, then we say that it's pasul, right? Because how are you supposed to see which owner it was brought for? That was the opinion of Rabbah. Then we had the opinion of Rava. Rava said that if it was brought for a mincha, for another mincha, then it's kosher. But if it's brought for a zevach, then it's a problem. If it's brought for for the sake of a karban, then it doesn't work. Now we're learning Rav Ashi, and the Rav Ashi says Amar Lo Kasha. Rav Ashi says there's no question. Kam b'kaim it's machvas l'shemar cheshes. The difference between Reb Shimon, the two brises where we have a contradiction in Reb Shimon. If a mincha is brought with the wrong intention, one says that the owners fulfill their obligation, one says that they don't. It depends. If he brings a flat pan for the sake of a deep pan, around Gimel Amud Beis, about halfway down, so then it's going to be kosher. But kan became its minchas machvas minchas marcheshes. Here he's not bringing a pan for a flat pan for the sake of a deep pan. Here he's bringing the carbon mincha of a flat pan for the sake of a carbon mincha of a deep pan, or with the intention that it is carbon mincha of a deep pan, because he explains machvas l'shem marcheshes. If he brings a flat pan for the sake of a deep pan, what's he thinking about? He's thinking about a pan, a keli, a machshav b'mana like pasla. You don't pasla a keli with thought. He's only thinking about the pan. However, minchas machvas from minchas marcheshes. If he's bringing a carbon mincha of a flat pan for the sake of a mincha of a deep pan, the mincha the pasla b'machshava kamachashiv. He's thinking about a mincha, and if you think about a mincha to eat it in the wrong time, so you violate, you'll invalidate the carbon mincha. So here he's thinking about the carbon mincha for the sake of a different mincha. So mincha is something that gets invalidated. A pan does not get invalidated. So that's why machavas l'shem marcheshes is not a problem. But minchas machavas l'shem minchas marcheshes is yes a problem. The Gemara asks, but that's not what Reb Shimon said. Reb Shimon said that the reason is because he said the reason why it's valid is because his actions prove what it really is, which sounded like we're supposed to ignore his thoughts, because we see from his actions what it is. Not because he's thinking about a pan versus thinking about flour, because the type of mincha he's bringing shows what it is. It doesn't have to do with his thoughts. That's what the wording is. Now we're coming up with we're imposing another logic into this that was not what he originally said. That's the question here. And the Gemara answers hachi karma. This is what it means to say. Afal gav de machshava min karhi tipasel. Okay, this has to be read slightly different. Even though the thoughts about this mincha are not proving that it's accurate. On the contrary, it's proving that it's inaccurate. And so therefore I should think that it's puzzle. I don't know what you'll have over there. But in the Shita, he changes it like this. But because he's thinking about the vessel doesn't become invalid. Ravashi and Rava have an opposite logic than Rabbah. Rabbah's logic was that if I look at his actions and I listen to his thoughts that he's pronouncing according to Rashi, I see clearly what his actions are, and I see that his thoughts are inconsistent, and I'm going to follow the actions. And so we just ignore the thoughts; they're nothing, because the actions are much stronger than that. That was Rabbah's opinion. Ravashi and Rava's opinion is that if the thoughts are directly contradicting, then that makes it even worse, because those are totally invalid thoughts. Notice, I need my actions should be proving what I'm thinking and what I'm saying. But here it's going directly against what you're saying, so then that invalidates it. They have an opposite logic. So then the wording of Reb Shimon comes out. Not that, because his actions are proving, so we follow the actions. It works differently. I could have thought that his actions are proving the inconsistency with the thoughts, comes to teach me that it's still okay. It's like an even though. They add in the afal gav, even though that his actions are inconsistent with his thoughts, that it's not consistent, it's proving, not that it is consistent. Even though it could be proving that it's inconsistent, but nevertheless it's still okay for whatever reason. Because of a pasuk, because of mincha, which Rava brought. Okay, so the way Ravashi does this is even though he's thinking about a flat pan, he's thinking about a deep pan, and he's bringing a flat pan, and his thoughts are not consistent with his actions, so that should be invalid. But Kamash Malana he's coming to tell us that the fact is he's thinking about a pan, and pans don't become puzzle. The mincha becomes puzzle, not the pan. Our thoughts about a pan don't invalidate a pan. So now the Gemara says, so why did you say Avol Bezvachim Einakain? You said by animal sacrifices you don't have this logic. So the Gemara explains, Afal Gav, even though that we could have said that it is valid. Why? The Shechita Achas Lekulan Uzrikachas Lekulan V'Kabal Achas Lekulan. I could have said that it's valid because when you do Shechita, you do it the same on all sacrifices. It doesn't. His thoughts don't prove any inconsistency. He's bringing one carbon for the sake of another carbon, and he's doing the shechita. You can't tell any inconsistency on the shechita. You can't tell any inconsistency with receiving the blood, and you can't show any inconsistency with sprinkling the blood. So I could have thought that it should be valid. However, Zricha de Pasla by Machshava Kamachashav. However, he is thinking about a sacrifice where thoughts of a sacrifice do invalidate a sacrifice. So therefore we're going to say that here as well it's going to be invalid. Because when according to Rav Ashi will Reb Shimon allow a sacrifice to be valid with inconsistent thoughts? That's only if he's not thinking about a sacrifice, he's thinking about the vessel that the sacrifice is being used in. He's thinking about a flat pan and it's supposed to be a deep pan, or a deep pan is supposed to be a flat pan. I'm just going to ask a very strong question on this. Amle Rav Acha Breider Rav Rav Ashi. Rav Acha, the son of Rava, has a very strong question for Rav Ashi. He says, this is all good until you read the words of Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon says, one of the sacrifices that he says is valid is he says, Chareva Mishum Belula. One of the minchas says if you bring a dry meal offering, chareva means dry, for the sake of one that's mixed with oil. Reb Shimon says that it's kosher. According to Rav Ashi, the only time that a sacrifice would be valid, according to Reb Shimon, is if it's one pan for the sake of a different pan. And here it's the actual meal offering, which is dry, for the sake of a meal offering that's mixed with oil. So it doesn't fit with the answer. In other words, Reb Shimon gave two examples. One example was a flat pan for the sake of a deep pan. Another one was it was a flat pan for the sake of a deep pan. And the other example was a dry, one that doesn't have oil, the one that does have oil. Now, the logic that we just said, only explained the first case, because it was for a pan. He was thinking about a pan, and the pan doesn't come in valid. But now, in the second example, it's not about the pan, it's about the flour that's in the pan, or the flour that's in the pot or the oven. Is it dry or is it mixed with oil? And according to that, it should be invalid. So the example doesn't fit. So this is Rav Acha's question. Amayam Reb Shimon. Why does Reb Shimon say that this is kosher? Amalei l'shem bila ba'alma. Rav Ashi gives him an answer. He says, when it says that it's a dry mincha for the sake of a mixed one, that pronoun, mixed one, doesn't say what's mixed, is actually referring to just anything that's mixed, but not a carbon mincha. So he's not changing it to something that's significant. He's just saying, for the sake of any mixture. What mixture? Any mixture in the world, nothing to do with a mincha. And that's not going to invalidate the sacrifice, because he didn't exchange it for the wrong sacrifice. He just said, I'm bringing this for the sake of a mixture. If you're going to start playing with it like that every time you say a word, you're going to say, I wasn't referring to a different sacrifice, I was just referring to that word, but not the sacrifice. So, for example, someone brings a karban, and it's not supposed to be a shlamim. It's an oila, let's say, or whatever. He says, I'm bringing it for the sake of a shlamim. So we know the owner doesn't fulfill his obligation. So why don't you just say, when he said shlamim, he didn't really mean a sacrifice shlamim. He just meant to bring peace into the world. Shlamim means peace. So just play with it and change it from a sacrifice to just to the meaning of the word. And then it's not for a sacrifice, and then you'll make valid every sacrifice that's for the wrong intention. Says Hachi Ashta, hold it. You didn't follow the logic here. Hasam zevach gufei yekri shlamim. The title of the sacrifice is a shlamim. You can't say, we're not looking at the word, the way this word is, the usage of the word. We're going to look in the dictionary and see what it actually means. He says, no, you can't do that, because the usage of the word shlamim is a sacrifice. That's what the sacrifice is called. It's a shlamim. However, and he brings a pasuk to prove this. Diksiv hamakrav dam shlamim, the one that brings the blood of the shlamim, and it calls it the shlamim, and it's not the blood of the peace, bringing peace into the world. Hazayrik is tam shlamim. Says that someone that sprinkles the blood of the shlamim. We see the sacrifice is called shlamim. But hacha mincha gufa miyikri blula. But here is a mincha called mixture. It says, v'chol mincha blula b'shemen ksiv. Mixture is an adjective. It's not the noun. It says any mincha that's mixed with oil. It's a description of the mincha. Belula b'shemen ikri. It's described as mixed with oil, but belula stamala yikri. It's not just called plain belula. It never picked up that nickname that it's called mixed. So therefore, if someone brings, he's now trying to rework the way he was explaining Reb Shimon's opinion, that the reason why it was valid was either because he was bringing a flat pan for the sake of a deep pan, and he was thinking about the pan, not the flour that's in it, or if he is bringing the flour that's in it, and he is thinking about the flour, so then he's thinking about something else, which is not another mincha, it's just something else in the world, which is just any mixture. And we're saying that the term blula that he's using doesn't mean a carbon mincha, that's blula, which is not the one that he's bringing. It just means blula ba'alma. Why doesn't blula mean another carbon mincha, which is blula, which is mixed with oil? It says because when the pasuk talks about a carbon mincha that's mixed with oil, it says mincha that's blula b'shemen. It doesn't just call it blula. So therefore, the person that's bringing a dry mincha, and he's thinking about blula, he's just thinking about a mixture, but it's not a carbon. It's not the wrong carbon mincha that he's thinking about. It's just any mixture in the world, and that's not significant enough to invalidate the sacrifice. Okay, that was the three answers of
This Shimon ben Gamliel?
Reb Shimon ben Yochai. This is the three answers of Rabba, Rava, and Ravashi that tried to explain the contradiction in Reb Shimon. It took 2 pages to get through this, but it was still not done. The Gemara now says, Kula karabba layamri. The other opinions didn't go like Rabba, the first answer, because the other Rabba, machshava de minkra pasur rachmana. Because according to Rabba, the more inconsistent the thought is, the more valid it is. And they don't hold that. They hold the more inconsistent the thought is, the worse it is. That's why they don't go like Rabba. Remember, Rabba said, like Rabba. Rabba said that you look at the actions, and if the thoughts are inconsistent, so obviously the actions are the main thing. The others don't want to say that. They say your thoughts will invalidate the sacrifice if it's inconsistent. Karava layamri, they don't want to go like Rava because v'zayis teres le'mashmalu. According to Rava, the reason why the carbon minchas were valid, even though in the owner fulfilled his obligation, is because there was really no distinction between what type of mincha you brought. That's what we learned yesterday. A flat pan, a deep pan, it's all the same thing because it says zayis teres mincha. So he's thinking about the wrong mincha, it would still cover it. We had a problem with that because it says zayis teres achatas in other places, and we know that that's not true by a chatas. You can't just bring a chatas for another chatas. Okay, that's why they don't go accept Rava. Ravashi layamri mishum koshir de Ravacha brei de Rava. They don't want to accept Ravashi because Ravacha brei de Rava had this strong question on Ravashi. What was the question on Ravashi? Ravacha brei de Rava. We just learned it. He said that it doesn't fit with Reb Shimon's examples. Reb Shimon's example was that a dry mincha for the sake of a mixture mincha, for the sake of a mixture, is going to be valid. Now, Ravashi's whole logic was that if you're bringing a vessel for the sake of a vessel, it's valid. But a mincha, for the sake of a mincha, the wrong mincha is invalid. And here, you're bringing a dry mincha for the sake of a mixture, a mixed mincha, mixed with oil. So that should be invalid. That's what was Ravacha brei Rava's question. Now, it's true we gave an answer. We said that we don't really mean a mixed mincha, we just mean any plain mixture in the world. but they're not accepting that answer, and therefore they don't accept Rav Ashi. Now the Gemara says, most of the pshitale l'Rabba l'haygisa l'Rabba b'haygisa mibayla l'Rav Ashi. By Rav Ashi v'amri l'bay minei Rav Ashi miRav Asi. What was obvious to Rabba on one hand, and what was obvious to Rava on the other hand, which are opposites. What we're referring to is inconsistency in thought versus action. According to Rabba, an inconsistency in thought and the action means that we just follow the action and it's valid. According to Rava, inconsistency in thought versus action, they cancel it out and it's invalid. So that machlekes was actually a question of Rav Ashi. He asked Rav Asi. His question was like this: Mincha l'shem zevach. Someone brings a carbon mincha, but he has intention that he's bringing an animal sacrifice. Right? It's a mincha, it's a meal offering. He has intention that it's an animal sacrifice. Mali Amar Reb Shimon, what would Reb Shimon say? Time of the Reb Shimon is the reason of Reb Shimon, Misha Machshava de Minkra Le Pasla, Vaha Machshava de Minkrahi. Is the reason for Reb Shimon is because a thought that's clearly inconsistent is not invalid. It is valid because we'll just follow the action. This is clearly a thought that's inconsistent because it's not an animal. You just look at what you're doing here. It's not an animal. He's bringing a meal offering for the sake of an animal sacrifice. Well, it's clearly inconsistent. So
why would he think he could bring an animal for mincha? No.
Yeah, it's not. No, he's holding the flour,
yeah,
and he's sticking his fingers in it, and he's saying, "Oh, this is for a peace offering," which is an animal sacrifice. So, because it's so inconsistent, so it should be good, because it just follow his actions. His thoughts are clearly wrong, right? That's one way. Or this is the reason of Reb Shimon, because when did Reb Shimon say that it was valid? If he brings a carbon mincha for the sake of a different carbon mincha, a flat pan for a deep pan, and Reb Shimon holds that all carbon minchas are the same, so you didn't really mess it up. But here, it's not another carbon mincha. He was bringing it for a peace offering or something. So he messed it up. It doesn't go under the umbrella that we spoke about yesterday. So what's the reason for Reb Shimon? If we know the reason for Reb Shimon, then we'll be able to answer this question. Basically, he's asking, do we go like Rabba or do we go like Rabba? So Amalei, so Rav Asi responds to Rav Ashi, Reb Shimon. Do we know what Reb Shimon is talking about? Have we reached the end of his understanding? He doesn't want to answer like Rabba because Abaya's question on Rabba, which was Abaya's question was that if you're using a pasuk to make a hekesh, then it can't be a hekesh lachatzayin. If you're saying that it's valid, then it should be also valid by an exchange of owners. So we had a quote, and we were quoting a pasuk, and that we were going to compare Kodesh Kadashim Mikachatas Ukasham. It's some like a chata, some like asham. So if it's like an asham, which it makes it valid, then it should be valid just as if it's a change in sacrifice. So too it should be valid if it's a change in owner. That was a biased question on Rabbah. He doesn't want to answer like Rava because of the question of Zeis Teres Achatas. Because Zeis Teres Achatas tells me that that all chatos should be the same. Why are you just saying that all carbon minchas are the same? All chatas should also be the same if you're going to use the pasuk of Zeis Teres Achatas. This is the rule of the Chatas. Rava was using Zeis Teres Mincha. This is the rule of the Mincha, and therefore there were no differences. What type of Mincha you brought, they're all valid, even if you have the different thoughts. But if that's the case, then we should do the same by a Chatas, and we know that we don't, because it has the same type of pasuk, the same term. Okay, and finally, Ravashi mishum kusha deravacha brei derava. He doesn't want to answer like Ravashi because of the question of Ravacha brei derava, which was that the examples don't fit with the Ravashi's logic, because we had chareva, a dry mincha for the sake of a mixed mincha, we said was valid, and according to Ravashi, the only thing that was valid was a vessel for the sake of a vessel. Okay. That was the difficult sugya, and from here it gets easier. We said in the Mishnah, we're dropping Reb Shimon now. We said that any mincha that's brought for the wrong sake was valid, except for two menachos. Which one? A chatas, a mincha of someone that committed a sin. Which sin? He entered the temple impure, or he made an oath that he doesn't know testimony, and he doesn't have the funds to buy an animal sacrifice, so he has the scale, and he can go on the, if he doesn't have enough money, he can bring a meal offering instead of an animal, and instead of a bird, which would have been in the middle. Or minchas kanais is a saita that has to bring a carbon mincha of barley. These two, if they're brought for the wrong intention, they're not valid. Not only does the owner not fulfill his obligation, but they're not valid.
That's a mincha that the Seder brings before they find out?
Yeah. Afterwards, she's either dead or... So Bishlam minchas chayte, the Gemara says it works out well, it's logical, it makes sense. Minchas chayte, that it's not going to be valid if there's the wrong intention. Why? Because chatas kaya rachmana, the Torah calls it a chatas. It says lo yosem ala Hashem and leitin ala vaynaki chatasi. You don't put oil on it. Don't put on frankincense. This is another dry mincha. Why? Because it's a chatas. And what is the rule by a chatas? A chatas that's brought for the wrong intention is not valid. Ela minchas kanais minalon. But how do we know that a saita offering that's brought for the wrong intention is not valid? The Tani Kana, this is the answer. The Tani Tanaka made Rav Nachman, because the Tana taught in front of Rav Nachman, minchas kanais meiser nedava. Let's say a woman brings a minchas kanais, she brings her meal offering. However, there's leftover money. What does the leftover money go to? It goes to nedava, sacrifices that are used when the mizbeach is empty, just to keep it functioning. So they have it's called ketam mizbeach. They put the money into these pushkas. They had 13 of them, called shayfers, and they would use that money to buy oilas, and they would bring it. So if a woman brings money for her saita offering, meal offering, the extra money goes towards those donation offerings that are brought in the empty time. And Amarlei Shaper Kamrit, Rav Nachman said, you're saying good. Why? Because Maskeres Avin Ksivba, because it says that it's a remembrance of sin by this mincha. And by the chatas it says, and this was given to you to carry the sin of the congregation. It uses the same term, avain, the Hebrew word avain. This is called a gzera shava. You take the same word in this place. You find the same word in that place. We're going to compare the halachas between them. Gzera shava, it has an equal enunciation. Ma chatas meiser nedava, just like a chatas. What's left over from a chatas goes to those donation offerings. Af minchas kanais meiser nedava. Also, what's left over from a woman's saita offering also goes to the donations offering. Then the Gemara says uke chatas, and it's similar to a chatas more. Ma chatas psula shlei lishma, just like a chatas if it's brought for the wrong intention. Af minchas kanais psula shlei lishma. Also, a saita offering that's brought for the wrong intention is puzzle if it's for the wrong. It's puzzle. So we see we're comparing it to a chatas in more than one way. It's compared to a chatas that the leftover money goes to the donation. Therefore, we're going to compare it also to the chatas that if it's brought for the wrong intention, it's going to be invalid. So basically, the rule is like this: that all menachos that are brought for the wrong intention are valid, except for these two, minchas chayte and minchas knais. All sacrifices that are brought for the wrong intention are valid, except for two, a chatas and a carbon pesach after chatzais in the afternoon. So, what we're going to need to do is going to compare these two minchas to a carbon chatas, and that way there'll be this. These are the ones that are, if they're brought for the wrong intention, are invalid. But once we're going to mix in an oila, an asham, a shlamim, those types of sacrifices, those are all valid, even if they're brought for the wrong intention. It's only the chatas that's invalid. Okay. Elamayata, now the Gemara says, according to what you just said, that because you have the word avain, which means sin, by the mincha of a saita, and you have the word avain by a chatas offering, and you're going to compare the two, and you're going to say that just like the chatas that's brought for the wrong intention is invalid, so too the saita offering is going to be invalid for the wrong intention. Elamayata, according to this, asham yeh pasal shlei l'shmai. Let's say that an asham should also be pasal. Why? The Gomer avain mechatas. You have the same word by an asham. It says the word avain, which means sin. I guess the English comparable to avain would be the first part of the word iniquity. In is avain. I don't know the history of the language, but avain, the sin, is said by a chatas, and we're comparing it to a carbon mincha. But now the Gemara is asking, you have that word sin, avain, also by the asham. So if you're going to use this comparison, you're going to end up with the asham offering, the guilt offering, also being invalid for the wrong intentions, and that's not the halacha. So the Gemara answers, danen avain vein danen avainai me avain. Gemara has a little loophole over here. It says, what does it say by the asham? It doesn't say sin. It says his sin, avainai. So we're not going to use that. We're not going to put that into this comparison because it's slightly different. It has the pronominal suffix of his sin, avainai. Avainai is going to mess up this comparison. We need just without any suffix, avain, and that's going to be the comparison. So that's going to push out the asham from this comparison, and an asham will still be valid, even though it's brought for the wrong intention. The Gemara says, "My nafkamina, why are you making that distinction?" V'hatana debei Rabbi Shmuel. We know it was taught in the house of Rabbi Shmuel. B'shava kayin uva kayin, zui shiva v'zui via. It says the kayin will return, and it says the kayin will come, and those are totally different words. And nevertheless, because the context is the same, we're ready to make a gzeira shava from the word shav and the word ba, returning and coming, because in context it means the same.